Yeah.
Okay. Let's just, isn't it supposed to be on Zoom as well? Because we're recording it, but we're also live. That way when I think so. But it's YouTube.
No,
but-
it's. That's streaming.
Yeah, it's streaming. Okay. No, so if we have a deputation,
Oh, you mean first phone?
yeah. So, because we need people to be able to zoom in. So Jamie Robinson's gonna be zoom in. Right? So you do have a deputation thing up there.
I thought they would join and then I would have been.
Yeah.
They're still there.
All right, well, let's see what happens. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just click on participants and see what you get.
There's now the. Deputation,
Okay.
make sure there's not more than one meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, there's only one, so turn the phone.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Good, we're good. Okay, we'll bring the council meeting to order. Welcome to the February 17th council meeting. Prior to the open session, council met for a closed meeting, was moved by Councilor McCann, second by Councilor Borneman. The pursuant to section 239(2) and 3 of the Municipal Act SO 2001 C25 as amended, Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound moved to a special meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to B, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, potential employment, and D, labor relations or employee negotiations, potential employment, and K, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, washroom services at Tower Hill. And that meeting was had. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people under the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850 and the waterways traveled by the Métis of this region. May I have a mover and seconder for the agenda, please? Councillor Boleski and Councillor Keith. We have had a suggestion to move item 931 up to the front to deal with the presentation from Jamie Robinson.
There's more than one meeting going. Because Wes and she couldn't join, so I think I just have to send an invite to the room. You have anything else? Yeah.
Okay. So you work on that while we're doing the minutes and okay. All right. Any further items on the agenda that need no? Okay, fix it. Okay, all right. That the council agenda for February 17th be approved as amended. All in favor? That's carried. We're going to try and work through some technical issues as we're going along. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? No? Okay. Mover and seconder for the minutes. Councillor Keith and Councillor McDonald. That the minutes from the regular council meeting held February 3rd, 2026 be approved as circulated. Any discussion or comment on those minutes? All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Questions of staff? Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Kearns. I guess you've probably been on the hot seat as is typical at this time of the year with snow removal. And thanks to the staff for being able to work away at it. I know it's a big thing, and I see the mountain of snow up at the yard. We could have our own Olympics up there. There were two areas in which I wanted to address. Um, on Pine Drive, if you're coming out away from Sobeys to make a right-hand turn, that lane, unless something changed in the last 48 hours, has been completely overwhelmed by a snowbank. And I'd also noticed on coming off Gibson onto Belvedere, there's a lane there where there's a snowbank that just overwhelms, just fills up the whole lane, right lane next to it. So I, I just, is the town able to, or the staff able to identify these and make a priority to get rid of them because it really can be a traffic hazard.
Excuse me, through you, your worship. Um, Unfortunately, there's a number of those types of situations around town. So staff have been assessing everywhere in town. There are local streets where we've seen the traffic completely diverted into a single lane in both directions, further complicated by sidewalks and trying to accommodate school children using those avenues to get to and from school safely. So that's part of the thought process when staff are assessing some of these. While some of those localized ones may seem, and they would be on their own, probably highly prioritized, there are other areas of town that we're trying to catch up in to ensure that there's at least more than one lane of traffic or lane of travel on some of the streets. It's something we haven't seen in a few years, so it's maybe not something everybody's as used to, but there are 3 snow removal crews working continuously, and as you mentioned, the amount of snow that's been moved already is enormous. There's a rather large excavator that's stacked probably on its 3rd or 4th or 5th round to elevate our pile between the snow blower just to make room for the snow that we're removing. So we'll certainly take a look at those areas, but there are other areas that have become problematic that they've been concentrating on.
Thank you. Councillor Borneman?
Well, strangely enough, I was at Belvedere this afternoon and the Adams crew were working on the street towards Gibson. I'm not sure if they got to the corner or not. Mr. Cairns, also for you, last Friday, Councillor Ashford and I attended a funding announcement with respect to the wastewater plant. Can you tell the public what we're getting for $7 million, what we're up to up there, exactly how it's going to improve the operation of the plant, increase capacity, all of those things?
Certainly, through you, your worship. So that $7.162 million is the provincial contribution to the estimated cost. That's closer to 9.8 million in total. So there'll be an expansion of the headworks building, which is where everything, that's the very first point at which it enters the treatment train at the sewage treatment plant. So there'll be an expansion of that with the ability to accept more flow, more force mains as we're anticipating development, and increased construction like SPS number 2. So we'll be able to accommodate those flows coming into the plant and expanded flows. And the other portion of that project is what we call the tertiary treatment train, which is the very back end. So we're working at the very front and the very back of the plant. We've had failures in the sand filters that are polishing the effluent before it enters the environment. And that will be a complete replacement with new technologies on the back end to ensure we have the highest quality effluent leaving the plant.
Yeah, Councillor Borneman?
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure other members, all members of council are probably getting questions and calls to what the town might be doing to celebrate Megan's success in Milan. I know you've done a bunch of interviews in the past number of days. Can you kind of advise the public what the game plan is here moving forward? Um, so as we're all on the same page.
Sure. So as there will be a memo coming out to council, probably hopefully tomorrow, as to what plans have currently been made. But what I can share at the moment is that we're going to be doing something February 28th at the Stocky Center, starting at 11:30. There is an event scheduled for that evening, which has to be loaded in. So we have about a 2-hour window, about an hour in the main hall, and then the lobby, which could be a little bit longer. But we are planning something for the Stocky Center, like I said, at 11:30, and an opportunity for Megan to be there. She's going to be home, from what I gather, for about a week, and then she's heading off somewhere. I think March 1st. So it's a very, very short window, certainly respecting her time and that sort of thing. And I think one of the things that, you know, because there have been a number of people ask questions, we should do this, we should do that, and that kind of stuff. The important thing for me is, and the important thing for anybody is that we respect Megan's wishes and her family's wishes on how this is handled. I think that's extremely important, and how this is dealt with. So the last message I have is, so far we're dealing with that the way that she would like it. So I try to make sure that I'm cognizant of the family's feelings in this. So they are extremely proud. They're extremely happy, as everyone else certainly is, and that sort of thing. But some of this is new for some people as well. So anyway, moving forward, we'll see what happens. Yes, Councilor McDonald.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess along those lines too, I think recognizing when she comes back and on her terms is definitely important. I think public should also be realized that we do have the opportunity, not just for one singular event, but to perhaps, you know, create a whole bunch of different things. So I think it's important that we don't rush into trying to jam everything all together into one event, and, you know, respect the family's wishes and respect what she wants to do, and you know, have a nice homecoming celebration for her, but realize that we still have other opportunities coming up as well.
There'll be other opportunities throughout the year that I think, you know, when she's home, that we can hopefully capitalize on, and have opportunity for her and the public as well. Councillor Keith.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, my question would be for yourself or Mr. Harris, and that is, and I respect the concerns and needs of Megan Olden and her family, but what I'm looking at is the town website. Is it possible, with their permission, there could be on our town website showing her winning the gold, something to that effect, on our town website, so that anybody who accesses our town website sees that how proud we are of her? Is that a possibility that it can be investigated?
I believe so, Councillor Keith. I did ask that, I believe, this morning. But we have to remember that it happened yesterday, which was Family Day. And now we've got to make sure that we're able to get the authority to be able to show those videos and that sort of thing, to make sure that we're not, how can I put it? We're not infringing on somebody's copyright. Okay.
I recognize all of that. That's why I've asked
Yeah.
for it to be investigated, but certainly, and I appreciate yesterday was Family Day, but certainly if it's on the list for us to examine and do, that's all I'm asking.
Yep, no, that was one of my asks, so. Any other, Counselor Ashford?
Just a question for Mr. Kearns. Keeping in line with some of the other questions, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how the plows and the sidewalk plows kind of work in conjunction or against each other, as it often appears when you're watching. The plow goes by, pushes it on the sidewalk plow goes by, pushes it back on the road, kind of thing. So you end up with these, banks on the side of the road, and so this one suggestion that was given to me was, why don't we put it on the other side of the sidewalk? And I understand there's some, a lot of different variables and some good reasons why that would be good or bad. I was wondering if you could just talk about how this kind of happens, and hopefully it's not going to snow as much as they're saying tomorrow.
Through you, your worship. So you're right. Sometimes it does seem like a back and forth, and it really depends on the amount of space available within the municipal right of way. It has to do with topography. So are the houses above the street, below the street? If we tend to move snow towards the buildings and the flow is downhill, we create issues when we do have inevitable melt. So there's a balance there that staff try and find. And in a year like this, we're probably seeing more of it. People are running out of space to put snow. I would suggest the road is not where you need to put snow when you run out of room on your personal side of the property. It creates all sorts of issues. It creates traveling hazards. It creates hazards for the people removing snow, and those using the roads and sidewalks. So there's a bit of a balance there. It really depends on the street makeup, the topography, the drainage, how much room there is to put snow. So there's a real balance there, and it's not the same on every street, but the road allowances are not identical on every street, nor is the street located within the center of the road allowance at all times. So sometimes it may appear that there's space, but we get very close to houses and cause those issues in the spring. So we certainly don't want to cause anybody further issues after dealing with the snow all winter long. So there's a bit of a balance there that staff have to strike.
Okay, Counselor Keith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is for Mr. Cairns. And again, it's, I see it, of course, I'm being prejudiced or subjective, but I see it as being a proactive and educational. And my question has to do with up at the transfer site, there is a lot of snow up there, a wonderful pile that where all the snow is being taken as it's being removed. And I was up there last week and decided to take a picture because I thought sometimes when people have concerns or complaints, if they can see what the real situation is and how much snow is being removed, it's like all of a sudden happiness and it comes into the picture because they can have a better judgment of things. So what I'm wondering, is it possible that perhaps one of your staff can take a picture of all of that snow up there with a vehicle so they can see the measurement? Because again, today, once I showed somebody who was definitely complaining about the snow, etc., and then showed how much is up there and what we were doing, I can tell you the complaint came to an end and happiness started to reign, because then it was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize. So is something like that possible to be put on the website? Because again, it's educational. It shows what sort of a situation this town is really dealing with in reference to operations.
Through your worship, sorry. Yeah, that's certainly something we can do. There's been some recent events that we didn't want to remove from prominence on the website. So there was some reasons why we didn't post things earlier. Some recent events within the country that were important. We didn't want to move them down in the website because sometimes they can get lost if folks don't scroll down to read the news articles. So certainly I would prefer to do that than encouraging anyone to go up and look, because it's a very busy and very constrained area. Now, if you happen to be going to the transfer station to use it appropriately, then certainly you're going to see the what's going on up there. But yeah, that's certainly something we can do.
And in my response, I was going up to the transfer station to deliver some things that I actually hated to part with because they were electronic. But I guess after the year 1980, it's probably time that they bit the dust. So I killed two birds with one stone. So thank you.
Councillor Ashford?
I think maybe Mr. Kearns, you should be in the photo at the top of the snow pile when that happens. But my next question is certainly an exaggeration, but people are, we got a couple messages today that the entrance to the BOCC's collapsed under the snow, or, and whatnot. And it's certainly an exaggeration. My kids were there skating and they just had to use a different door. But I was wondering if you could kind of advise on what the situation is and when the main door of the BOCC will be kind of up and running again.
Certainly, through your worship. So it's kind of an evolving situation. I believe the front door was functional again with a small area cordoned off by this afternoon. So the awning, if you're familiar with it, is a semicircular awning that abuts a wall, which makes it very difficult for snow. It's not shed on the building side, and it accumulates. So it becomes very difficult to get off of there because of the shape of it. And evidently there was a bit of a buildup on the backside, and when it warmed up, there could have been some extra water into that snow, and it caused a bit of a structural issue that staff are looking after.
Anything further? No? Okay. So our acting clerk is busy right at the moment trying to square things up for the people to zoom into our meeting. So I'm going to do the correspondence. Oh, we do? Okay. Do you want to do the correspondence? Or do you want me to finish?
Go ahead.
Just asking. So first item of correspondence is a letter from Michelle Ogilvy, and a resident of Parry Sound and business owner, about an experience that she had with one of her pets. And she is looking for the veterinary clinics to have an after hours and weekend response that hopefully they could divide up at different times amongst their different clinics. And I believe she's going to be making a deputation later, so we'll hear more about that during the deputation. So that's the first item of correspondence. The second one is from Liz McWalter with regard to the preservation of the Jones Island Rear Lighthouse. And they're concerned about the Canadian Coast Guard removing the historical lighthouse and putting up just a regular modular 80-foot tower. And they're looking to try and support keeping the building and having it upgraded and maintained. They've contacted our MPP to see if he can't help as well. And maybe there's a possibility if someone wants to make a direction that we might be able to write a letter of support in this at all as well. Councillor Keith, who's that? Seconder, Councillor McCann. All in favor of writing a letter? Okay, super. Thank you. And that's all the correspondence. Thanks. So next is deputations, and our first deputation is Michelle Ogilvy. So welcome. Yep. That's okay. It's the first time for everything.
Hi there, everyone. Before I start, I want to give the warning. I might fall apart, so please forgive me if I do. So hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Ogilvy, and I'd like to bring something that is very important to you all. First and foremost, I'd like to thank each of you for allowing me here to discuss this subject. Having your support means more than you will ever know. Secondly, I want to give the warning that what you are about to hear may be unsettling and even disturbing to listen to, and I ask that you please be patient with me as I retell a traumatic experience that I had to witness and deal with firsthand. So although it may be uncomfortable to hear, imagine being there. Third, I think it's very important that I say this before I begin. I have nothing negative to say about our local vet clinics and the staff. In fact, I have the utmost respect for all of them and what they do. Before I became a dog groomer, I worked at a vet clinic and I've seen firsthand what they deal with on a day-to-day basis, and it's extremely demanding, difficult, and even mentally draining. I have no hatred or animosity towards anyone in the industry. However, I do want them to hear my plea. As you may all be aware, this community and surrounding communities have a very high amount of pets, and those numbers just keep getting higher. Dogs, cats, reptiles, birds, and livestock, you name it, and with that, there are needs for these animals. We have 3 veterinary offices, several grooming salons, including my own, as well as pet stores and feed stores. All of these establishments are booming with business. My business alone typically books at least a month ahead, and that's with 2 staff members, and we only groom dogs. A few years back, my beloved Abby, a Chihuahua, had a run-in with a porcupine, and by no surprise, the porcupine won. Abby had quills in her face, including one that was millimeters away from her eye. This happened around 10 p.m. At that time, the local vets offered on-call after-hours care, so I called the clinic, to which Dr. White from Parry Animal Hospital met me at the clinic to help. He removed the quills, and it was a blessing he did, because the one quill right on her eyelid could have moved, and this would have caused my dog to either have vision issues or would have been blind in that eye. The process took about 20 minutes. Once the process was completed, I was given a bill, which I paid happily, and we went home with a happy dog and happy pet parents. Fast forward to a few months later, and all the clinics decided to scrap the after-hours program with not very much explanation to the community as to why. Is it because of staffing? Is it because of personal time? If it's due to personal time, I respect that to a degree. A couple months ago, my sweet Abby was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, and her prognosis was that at some point she would die. We were very aware of this. We acted quickly to ensure she could live with this condition for as long as possible and with no discomfort. We put her on 2 different medications, but unfortunately, those meds were only speeding up the process. She stopped eating, wouldn't stop throwing up and having the runs, and lost a profound amount of weight, so we opted to stop. We spoke to the vet about this, and we had a mutual agreement to make that decision. After stopping, she put on weight again and seemed to almost bounce back to herself. However, out of nowhere, things changed. On the evening of Sunday, February 8th, our lives came to a complete stop when we noticed that Abby's breathing was very high and labored. I picked her up and looked at her gums, and they were purple. I told my husband that it was time, and we had to act quickly. In one last desperate attempt, I found one of my vets on Facebook and sent him a message begging him to help. But unfortunately, I didn't hear back, and I still haven't. My 7-year-old son was adamant that he wanted to come and say goodbye to his beloved dog. We are firm believers of not sheltering our children from a very real thing that they will face. And unfortunately, my son has already faced death 3 separate times, so we agreed to have him come. We hopped in the car and began our 1.5-hour drive to Parry, but I knew in my heart that there was a good chance we wouldn't make it. Abby was on my lap, and she decided she wanted to go on the floor, which was very unusual for her. I looked down at her, and she was lying on her side, panting heavily, and her tongue was a deep blue color, which means her body wasn't getting enough oxygen. She all of a sudden tried to climb back onto my lap, so I picked her up. She looked out the window and paused for a moment before everything just went downhill fast. All 4 of her legs went straight out. Her whole body tensed, and she began seizing in my arms. While this was happening, she began defecating and urinating all over me. She lost complete control of all of her functions. Her head was flopping around and her eyes were rolling to the back of her head. She couldn't breathe, and it was clear that her body was going into shock. What was happening was she was drowning from the inside because fluid was filling up her lungs. Trent, my husband, acted quickly and got off the highway at Port Severn at the en route gas station. He pulled into the gas bay and got out, as well as my 7-year-old son, and ran over to my side of the car. We all were petting her and saying our goodbyes, all the while watching her foam from her mouth and nose and twitching and seizing. I had my hand on her heart and I felt it slowly drift away, and within moments she was gone. She suffocated to death in front of me, in front of my husband, and what's worse, in front of my 7-year-old son, in a gas station gas bay. I want to say that one more time. In a gas station gas bay. Had the on-call services been available, it would have taken barely any time for us to get to a local clinic and had her put to sleep humanely. We knew she was going to die, but we wanted her death to be peaceful and painless, but it didn't end that way. In the almost 12 and a half years of having Abby, she was always there for us through the good and the bad. She was always our rock, and the one time she needed us, we failed her simply because we were at the mercy of other people's choices. We tried everything we could. That said, we have 3 vet offices, which house at least 2 vets per clinic. That means that's 1 week in 6+ weeks that a vet has to be on call for after-hours emergencies. Anyone that decides to become a vet knows the responsibilities and the unfortunate things they'd have to deal with. These vets also voluntarily opened clinics in a rural area that doesn't have the means for after-hours care. This isn't Toronto. We don't have the resources that those areas have. When the vets made the choice to scrap this program, they inherently signed the death certificates of many pets, including Abby. Many of my clients have lost their pets in similar ways, and I've learned since I made this public, there are countless cases. An emergency can't wait. An emergency isn't 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. A 1.5-hour drive isn't conducive when it's an emergency. If this was a person having to drive that distance to get to an emergency department because they couldn't breathe and died on the way there, all because the doctors didn't want to offer after-hours care, this town would be rioting and losing their minds. But because these are pets, it doesn't seem to matter as much. These beautiful creatures are our family members. Their purpose is us. They live their lives for us, and the one and only time they need us, we are at the mercy of having no care to take that pain away from them, and that is flat out wrong. When somebody decides to be a paramedic, firefighter, doctor, police officer, they are taking on the job knowing that it isn't 9 to 5. They're the lifelines to people. Our vets are our pets' lifelines. So how is this any different? I'm asking for the town to please support me, my family, and most importantly, the voiceless, the ones that can't speak for themselves. I'm wanting us to all work together to convince our vet clinics to reinstate the after-hours program. I created an online petition which has over 620 signatures asking the vets to reinstate the after-hours care. I'd like to add that all these signatures are from people in this community and surrounding communities. I've received countless messages, comments, and phone calls. I have heard stories from complete strangers that are so similar and gut-wrenching to hear. How many more stories do we have to hear before it's taken seriously? To these clinics, I understand that this may cause you to view me differently and to even have hatred towards me, and I accept that. I'm not addressing this to cause that. I ask that you understand that I'm not asking you to work 24 hours a day. I am asking you to have compassion to the emergencies that happen after hours and offer something to your community, your clients that keep you employed and your staff employed, to possibly save lives or end lives in a humane way. These animals deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that you started a petition, okay, because I think that's very important. As you know, we have no authority or whatever to make them open. We had that sort of email conversation. The only thing we can do is make them aware that someone has started an online petition, and for them to maybe have a conversation about that. That's like I said, we can't make them do it, but we can, because there's no legislation that says that they have to. So, but if council is willing to have a letter written, making them aware that a petition is circulating, and that maybe we can have a conversation about this. I'm certainly open for that. So, Councilor McCann.
So I was going to ask if it would be premature to put forth that motion at this time. And then I had some comments to make.
Okay, we can yeah, we can do a letter. Any seconder for that? Councilor McDonald? Okay. Comments on the, well, let's,
Sure, go ahead.
were there any questions for Ms. Ogilvy first?
So thank you for coming tonight. I know it takes a lot of courage to, I watched your video and I've seen your website and, as Mr. Mayor has said, we don't have the municipal legislation to do that. But I think in terms of encouraging and taking a leading position in this, if there's some way that we can get the ball rolling and get people interested. Two questions. We had talked about whether or not there was anything in any particular legislation for veterinarians as to their obligation for providing after hours service.
So something was actually brought to my attention from the Ontario Veterinarian Association website that does state that if a veterinarian decides to opt out of after hours care because there's no emergency care in the surrounding area, they have to be able to send their patients to a neighboring clinic. And I'm sorry, but 100-kilometer plus drive is not what I would call neighboring. So I don't know if that can be also brought to their attention as well. I can also bring that printed out and show you that it is there in writing.
Thank you.
So then the second question is, in terms of, this sounds, as I mentioned in my email to you, this is a grassroots thing, I think, in terms of getting the community involved. In addition to the petition, is there any, has there been any attempt to speak to the veterinarians in this area and get a response from them?
So when they first opted to scrap the program, there was quite a few people in the community that did attempt to reach out to them. What the answer was is unclear to me. I don't really want to comment on that because I've heard so many different things, and because I wasn't the person dealing with it, I don't want to, it wasn't me that dealt with it. But yes, in short, they have had people in the community, many people in the community, come to them and ask them to reinstate it or ask why. And there's been many different answers that I have heard.
Oh, I'm sorry. So then as my final comment, then as a grassroots movement, I can imagine if you could get some people together and organize some sort of a town hall thing and invite the veterinarians to come, if they would come and discuss it. But yeah, at least get the conversation going and get some sort of feedback. And the story that you told tonight is you're not unique in that many people have suffered the same thing. So that would be something to see moving forward if you can get your own organization moving uh, and go from there.
Yeah, and like I can certainly, because I'm probably going to be getting a phone call this week telling me that my dog is available to be picked up. In other words, her ashes. So I have no problem also bringing this to their attention when I pick them up and having a conversation with them and seeing if they would be open to it.
Thanks again for coming.
Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, your worship. Thanks for coming, Michelle, and telling your story. I know it's very difficult to hear. I've gone through the similar thing. So I certainly support of the opening of the dialogue with the veterinary clinics to have them maybe reconsider. And Councillor McCann touched on what I was going to ask about if there has been any contact with them recently in regards to them re-exploring that. And I think certainly the petition and getting the support that you need behind you will go a long way. So thanks for coming.
Anything further? All those in favor of the letter then? That's carried. Okay. Thank you. Now,
It can really come to pitch here in person.
oh, is Kimberly Hayes here in person or?
No, I actually don't.
Oh, okay. We just, she asked to do a deputation. We haven't been able to get her online.
Oh.
Okay.
I was not heard. I can try that.
You can let her know what we've done tonight or whatever. Maybe it's a moot point or whatever.
Yeah, oh, great, that.
Yeah. Okay. No,
I'm filling in for someone, so.
yeah,
I just wanted to make sure.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification, that letter that is being sent to, is it to each veterinarian clinic in town, just indicating what, please? Could you repeat what it is that we voted on? Thank you.
Just that we were requesting to write a letter regarding the issue. But to,
It's to open dialogue.
It's open dialogue. It's not that we are taking charge and doing an organization or anything, just to advise of the information that we've received. That's what I'm understanding, but it just wanted clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have no.
No, I realize that, but
Business, right?
yes.
Yeah.
All that Michael was asking for is for the possibility of on-call.
Yeah.
At route.
Yep. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, and that's what it would be about if we could have that conversation. Yeah. And that let them know that there is a petition out there in the public that is being presented. Yeah, okay. Councillor McCann?
So I think it would add more weight if we sent a letter to the other municipalities. I think if there was some opportunity for them to write a letter, that's certainly more voices, more weight to the argument.
We can copy them on it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Next is reports. I'm gonna start with Councillor Keith tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councilors, staff, and the public. I do have but a few things to report. I attended the Chamber of Commerce business breakfast event held at McDonald's restaurant. It was quite informative, well organized, and it was good to meet other business owners in the area. On another Saturday, I attended the Trails for Life held at Port Sydney. as a community fundraising event in support of the Huntsville and Bracebridge hospitals. The activities were free. There was a variety of food and learning experience for novice snowmobilers, and there was a lot of snowmobilers there, that's for sure, but it was very cold, so my observation of them was a little more limited, even though I have an old beaver coat on. The Honorable Doug Ford and Graydon Smith, our MVP, as well as mayors from Bracebridge, Huntsville, and Strong Township also attended. Again, this was very well organized, but that wind from the lake made my viewing limited. This past week, I volunteered to help out at the Snow Fest that was organized by the town, and Miss McNamara and Jamie Young and all the staff and volunteers did a wonderful job. I attended over 20 businesses to ask to have the festival posted on their business, as well as accepting rack cards. It was interesting to learn that all of the businesses are not on target in respect to posting posters, etc. Some is because of a chain policy, but many of the downtown businesses were on board, so I'm really grateful there. I attended the high school community breakfast. The movie that was at the Stockey Center for a little bit older children, and me too, was called Moon the Panda, and it was very interesting. It was made in China, and it was an English speaking movie, but it was very interesting because it was China, France, and the states that were involved in creating that movie about the panda bear. And I have to say the photography was really beautiful. I felt like I was watching National Geographic. So, and there was a message to me. The message in that movie also was that we have to think about our priorities in life. Then on Sunday, I volunteered to be on the welcoming committee at the Kinsman Park. The Kinsman Club provided free hot chocolate and coffee, a variety of specialty booths, and including free taffy on the ice. And it was great to see something like the Forest School, the library, having educational experiences, the toboggan races, and also there were inflatable sleigh that you could get on and have your pictures taken. But the fun one, I think, was the inflatable slide that kids appeared to be having lots of fun on. And again, the Parry Sound Fire Department was out there manning little fire pits in which one could easily get warmed up if they were cold, although it was a mild day, and make s'mores. And then one can have the luxury, if you make a s'more, which I did, of getting it all over yourself. So that gives you a purpose in washing your clothes later on. And then on Monday, I helped out at the Family Day Mayor's Barbecue, serving hamburgers and hot dogs, and there's no doubt about it. We got a lot of hungry people who just love hamburgers for sure, and hot dogs for second, and it was great that Tim Hortons also was providing hot chocolate and goodies. The bottom line, why I'm saying all of this, it really showed again how many volunteers we have and participants that make this a really great community to live in. And final, I should say, I checked out the acrylic skating rink down on Bay Street, sponsored by Boston Pizza, and noticed some of the kids were already checking it out. So it's really great to see that down there. And finally, in the afternoon, I was able to watch the Olympics, and I'm sure we're all so proud of Megan Oldham, a Parry Sounder and now a gold medal Olympian. I even had some calls from people that I haven't heard from for some time, but knew that I lived in Parry Sound, saying great things. So she certainly, again, has put Parry Sound on the map again. So I extend well wishes for her, but I also extend well wishes for Mark Idison of Parry Sound, who will be representing Canada in the Paralympics in March. So I say, go, Mark, go. And thank you, Megan, for doing such a great job. Amazing person. Thank you. That's my report.
Thanks. Councillor Ashford?
couple meetings in the last few weeks. One is was at the pool committee meeting there at the Tamarack North Center, and everything's progressing well. The things are going well as they have in the past. The one little hiccup though was a little bit of a disappointment. Is there's a bit of a delay in opening due to the stainless steel for the pool, which if you didn't know, they had the company, every single thing on that Tamarack North Center is priced well. Like it's saving money here, whether we spend a little more here for savings over 20 years or whatever's happened. We are really the crew that's put this together. We really are getting a good bang for our buck with this. So the pool's kind of a bit of a specialty thing, and it's pretty impressive. But it was an American company, which at the time didn't matter much. But with the change in government there in the United States, the company was able to pivot and open its Canadian division a little bit earlier than what they were intending, with our pool being the first one being made. But being the first one in that kind of situation, it does seem to have slowed the process down a little bit for us. So nothing catastrophic, but I was really hoping that that thing would be open on we wouldn't see any delays on it. But I guess that's not realistic when you're doing a building. And then the second thing was, as Councilor Boardman has mentioned earlier, both of us were over in Bracebridge at a funding announcement for our community for our sewer plant, which was a truly amazing announcement for us. That as most of us know, we had the pump station number 2 project approved, which was a extremely competitive process. There's only so much money in the pot going to all the municipalities in Ontario, and for our little municipality to get so much money in that project, and to be able to deliver so much, it was quite impressive, quite the feat for and our staff at that time, and our community really, I think, deserved a lot of kudos for that. And then here we are again applying in the next round, which is almost, when I heard it was happening, I thought it was almost silly because we got the money in the first round out of the a couple hundred applicants. We got the money, and here we're going to try again and just expect, you figure they maybe switch to somebody else. But with the building permits coming in and Parry Sound, our staff and our community delivering, and they went with us again. They put the good money on good people, and here we are with another 7 million going into a much needed project that is not just allowing for, we kind of think sometimes you see all these condos going up and it's for people in the city that are moving here, but these projects are saving the Parry Sound taxpayer, from inflation's bad enough. This project, like the money we're getting for this project, is saving our taxes. Like it's truly amazing that this has happened. So I'm so grateful. I'm grateful Council Barnman had some really well chosen words there. I think he similar words he might have repeated many times in the past about our water treatment plant. So it was quite nice to hear him say those things, to hear our MPP Graydon Smith there talk about our community and the successes that we're seeing in our community. I think our staff really need to be thanked, Mr. Kearns and the whole crew, because again, like when I heard you're spending time filling this out, I thought, we don't need to spend time on that. We're not getting 2 grants in a row. Like it's just amazing that this has happened. And then I think also the mayor too, that the work that the mayor does on the different committees and councils, like I think all those things that have come together and all that time that you've put in, that everybody in our team put in, to be standing there watching this happen all over again after so many people applied, it was just a real nice experience. And I asked Graydon Smith, right? I said, hey, I had 30 seconds with him. Hey, how the heck did you get this to happen? He says, you just smile. You keep smiling and asking for the money, and it'll come. So I was pretty impressed with the whole thing. So thank you, everybody. And Parry Sound, I think we all should be pretty grateful for all of this, because like I said, it's saving us a lot of money in this one for sure.
Councilor Blaski.
Thank you, your worship. I have a very small report. I attended a Park to Park Trail Association Zoom meeting. And we just made some organizational changes. And that's my report.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Councillor McCann?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow councilors, staff, and public. Funny little story. I was working on my report last night, writing it up, and I've had a pretty busy day and I wasn't really tuned into the news. And I'm writing about Megan's bronze and talking about writing up a bit of a story as to how she fell in that second run, but she regained composure and such and won a bronze with her third go around. And then a message comes in from a colleague of mine, not even in Parry Sound, says, "Wow, gold." So I said, "What?" So here we go back to the beginning of the story and rewriting it. And what a thrill it was to do that. So I certainly wanted to say congratulations to Megan on her two medals. And as Councillor Borneman was telling me a little while ago, there'll be a lot of demands on her, I'm sure, nationwide. As you know, it's a big deal coming home with gold, but with two medals, it sure does Parry Sound proud and the country as well. So congratulations. You know, what defines an athlete? The three Ds: determination, discipline, and dedication. And she certainly has shown that she's got all that. And I'll just say that if you remember, I might be dating myself a little bit, Elvis Stoico back in the 80s when he was figure skating, you may recall that he was suffering a great deal. He was big and karate and all kinds of stuff and very, very disciplined. And how he went out there on the ice, suffering the pain that he did and accomplished what he did was amazing. And I kind of thought of him when I heard of Megan's triumph. And so congratulations, and we'll be looking forward to seeing her when she gets back. Congratulations to the Chuck's Roadhouse, which opened just as the weekend was starting. My wife and I were in there Sunday afternoon and had an opportunity to check it out, and we wish them all the best. Certainly, they were very busy with snowmobilers, and as we've been talking about the importance of snowmobiling and tourism in this area, there's a brand new place that's proving how important the snowmobiling industry is to the area. I talked to Sean from Boston Pizza Sunday afternoon. They were just putting down the rink, and it was coming along fine. And of course, as you know, it opened yesterday. And so, thank you to Boston Pizza and all the volunteers who put that together. The staff and volunteers who put together Snowfest as well are to be thanked. And so, as Councillor Keith said, we have a great community, a great army of volunteers in this area that make things happen. So thank you, and that's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Borneman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. On the 10th, I attended an airport commission meeting. We're working on the 2026 budget. I anticipate that we'll see next to no increase to the municipal contribution. And earlier today, I spent quite a bit of time with a consultant who's doing an airport master plan. I made Mr. Harris aware that he's in his sights for one of his next targets to make sure that he's getting the real story from Parry Sound. Yeah, like everyone else, I join in congratulating Megan. What an achievement that it is. Any parent who has a kid who's a goalie and hockey knows what pressure is all about, but watching your daughter come down a mountain doing loop-de-loops and having suffered all sorts of injuries in the past, I think that's really pressure. So congratulations. Councillor Ashford mentioned the funding announcement last week. Sometimes people question why growth and development are important in a community. Like anything else, a business or a home, costs keep continuing to go up, and the only way to defray those costs are to create more pieces in the pie, and that's what these investments allow for. It won't eliminate cost increases, but it certainly will mitigate them for the average homeowner. Like others, I congratulate the staff on Snowfest, and with a little codicil and thanking Mother Nature for a big assist. The past number of years haven't always been kind to winter events in this area, but April and her crew picked the perfect weekend. Weather was great, attendance was good at everything. So congratulations. The big thing that came out of the Family Day Skate, the 10th annual Family Day Skate sponsored by Mr. Mayor, was there were no increases in reports of food poisoning today. So Councillor Keith and you and I did okay at the barbecue, despite what you may hear otherwise. I went down and had a twirl on the new acrylic rink for a bit this afternoon, so I'd also join in thanking Sean and the people at Boston Pizza. It's just one more reason to get to the waterfront in the off season and to visit downtown. Hopefully people take full advantage of it. I know it's on Facebook. It's been a hot button item in our community for a number of years, but Parents of Parry Sound have some postings out that Thursday evening at 7 p.m. in the gym at Parry Sound High School. Minister Calandra, our MPP Graydon Smith, and the new Director of Education at Near North, Jay McJanet, will be hosting an open house. Hopefully this is the start to rebuilding some trust in our community and extending good news, keeping people informed in advance. So I'm sure we'll be watching to see what goes on there. Well, Megan's the big athletic news in Parry Sound in the past few days. I want to also extend my congratulations to Christine Anderson Hall. Christine showed a lot of gumption, I think, and some nerve. She entered some skating events at the recent Ontario Winter Games 55 plus and won a skating event. So she did this kind of quietly, I think. I'm not sure how confident she was going in, but I think it's great that she got out there and proved to herself more than anyone else that she could still do it. And I think as excited as she was by winning the event, I think she was equally excited by meeting the figure skating royalty who were there to judge and present medals. So way to go,
Nice.
Christine.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, staff, public. I'll be short and sweet, because everything I was going to talk about has already been mentioned. But I'd still like to give my congratulations to Megan Oldham and her family for a remarkable run at the Olympics, and we look forward to your homecoming. Also a reminder, I think another local, Mark Idison, will be participating in the Paralympics as well. So go Mark. I know we sent a signed flag over for him as well. And we do also have another local, Adam Higgins is a color commentary announcer on CBC for the snowboarding competition. So we have well represented over there, which is great. Again, shout out to the town staff and volunteers on a successful Snowfest weekend. Weather was great. The skating rink at the town dock, kudos to Sean and the Parks and Rec staff for prepping that parking lot and getting that up and running. It'll be a big draw. And along the same lines about the snowmobiles, being busy down at the town docks, and I've heard firsthand from the business owners how grateful they are to have that extra business come into town. And they certainly have been lining up at the local restaurants. So that's been great to see as well. So that's the end of my report.
Super, thank you. Council staff and public, February 5th at 10 a.m. Myself and Mr. Harris had a meeting with the new president of Canadore College, Dr. Sandra Afu. She's originally from Alberta and is the new president of the college. We had, I believe, a good conversation and expressed our hope that the campus here can be more than what it is right now. So fingers crossed, that'll happen. We did give her some ideas and people to contact and that sort of thing that she could have conversations with, and hopefully there's follow through. Then February 5th at 11 a.m., I attended executive meeting for the Municipal Services Board for the Tamarack North Center to discuss the 2026 operations budget. February 11th at 7 p.m., I attended the Recreation Center meeting. We had an update on the building, passed the operational budget for the center when it opens, and a resolution of support for the electronic donor wall, and an update on fundraising. We also directed the chair to write a letter to the Township of McDougall, because McDougall has, no, sorry, the Township of McKellar. The mayor of McDougall was writing the letter. So anyway, the chair is writing a letter to McKellar because McKellar has reneged on their funding for the operational portion of the budget for 2026. They have complied with a number of other things with the capital budget, but now we're into the operational budget. My understanding is they have opted not to pay. So the chair has written a letter asking for the reason why and to pay up. So basically, February 12th, there was a Teams meeting with Minister Callander. I had some issues with the Teams login, but the minister did reach out to me after the meeting. And as Councillor Borneman mentioned, it was mentioned during the meeting that he was having this town hall on Thursday from 7 to 8 o'clock. So those that are interested and want to attend, please go. February 12th that's 6:30 at the District Social Services Board meeting, and you should have all received your update report on that. February 14th to 16th, as was mentioned, Snowfest, a lot going on. Jim McCoubrey had a very successful Fisherman's Ball. I was able to get to Kinsman Park for a while. People were having fun on the toboggan hill, and the fireworks were really good. There was a few winter glitches, I think, within what happened there, but overall the fireworks were really good, and people seemed to be very appreciative. The free skate and barbecue at the BOCC was well attended. People were having fun, which is what it's all about. I want to thank Councillor Borneman and Keith for their help, and the staff at the BOCC as well for all their help and support. It's greatly appreciated. And I was trying to remember how long it had been we'd been doing the event, and Miss McNamara checked her records, and it was the 10th year. So we started it in 2016, and this is 2006. So I also have to thank Tim Hortons and No Frills. Overall, a big thank you to our staff, the volunteers, sponsors, and everyone that participated in the weekend. Well done. And after the event, as Councillor Borneman mentioned, I went down after the BOC to check the artificial ice at the town dock. And that's a project that was instigated by Sean and Boston Pizza. So it looked interesting, and people are using it, which is really, really good. So let's see how things go. Finally, congratulations to Megan Oldham for winning gold in the big air event at the Olympics. She got the second bronze for Canada, and she also got the second gold. And so many people are very, very proud. So please stay tuned, and an event at the Stocky Center on February 28th, as we mentioned earlier, to honor her achievements will be held. So that's my report. Thank you. So we'll start with item 711, which was an item from closed. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor McCann. Council hereby approves waiving the town's hiring policy per direction in closed meeting with respect to the 2026 aquatic swim program. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we're going Councillor Morniman.
I just wonder with respect to the waiving of that policy, if there should be some kind of explanation why we would do that.
I'll leave that to Mr. Harris to.
Certainly through the mayor, the town council has a nepotism policy, and that's a policy regarding the supervising, among other things, supervising someone that is a relative, and we define relative in the policy. There's a situation in the where we're looking to hire some summer students, and summer students are, with the qualifications in the swim program, is difficult to find and then retain. And in one case, there's a possibility that one summer student may be supervising a family member. This was discussed, and for various reasons, and because it's a summer employment and it's only very short term, seasonal, council didn't feel it was a problem in this case, that it didn't quite comply with the nepotism policy. Council deliberated and determined that it wasn't a significant issue. A lot of the supervisory duties that go along with supervision actually will be taken over by the full-time staff in any event. So it was a technical thing, but we wanted to make sure that council was on side with the decision to hire these two individuals.
Okay. Just before I go to item 931, I just want to mention that behind me is a banner that I believe Megan's dad had done up, and it was down at the Bobby Orr Community Center that I don't know, a few hundred people signed. So that will be saved, and it'll be given to Megan for a part of her collection from the community. So yeah. Anyway, we're going to go now to item 931. It's moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Ashford. The council received the final draft on the waterfront master plan for information purposes. And we have Jamie Robinson and Moya Taylor on. Oh, I asked Morris for the asset management. Okay, Jamie, you're up.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Thanks for having me tonight. I'm here to provide an update on the waterfront master plan. It's a project that's been ongoing for a while now. Last time I was before you, we provided an update of the draft document. And since that time, we've refined it in a few instances. And first off, sorry, before I get going, I should also just like to congratulate Megan Oldham on her gold medal as well. I was watching last night when she won, so that's fantastic. And we haven't had a chance to incorporate any of that into this waterfront master plan, but I'm sure you folks will have to make space for that going forward. But in any event, we've had a chance to consult with the First Nations. There's a couple of outstanding matters that need to be further massaged in that regard, specifically related to the land acknowledgement that's been requested by the First Nation. It differs from the current land acknowledgement that the town has been using. So before we incorporate that into the document, we just want to make sure there's some refinements made to that request, along with to make sure it meets the First Nations objectives as well as the town's objectives. But what you've got really before you is a waterfront master plan that incorporates the comments that have been provided from various members of the public. As you're aware, there's been great turnout through the various consultation sessions that we've had. There's been a number of surveys completed along the way. The real focus surrounding the document is ensuring that there is public access maintained along much of the waterfront, but also providing opportunities for future private investment as well to assist the future development throughout the waterfront. At the conclusion of the document, there are recommended policy updates that would be incorporated through the official plan review, which is also, as you're aware, at the ministry for comment at this time. So we're hoping that some of those policy recommendations also get incorporated again through the OP process. So that's a bit of a background and a bit of an overview about sort of where we're at. We have included some additional comments related to First Nations interpretive signage and providing some historic signage along the trail network that's envisioned for the waterfront area. But with that, Your Worship, if there's any questions of council, I'd be happy to answer those. From a next step, we really see the document as sort of being 99% of the way there and 95% of the way there. We just need to make those final refinements, we believe, to the land acknowledgement piece, and then we can get the document finalized. So
Thank you.
I'm here as well as we work closely with Jeremy Rand and with Dave Thompson to get this document to where it is. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, Councilor Borneman's got one.
Well, just so as Mr. Robinson waited quite a while. What's the process from here, Jamie? Where does this go moving forward?
So through Your Worship to the councillor, council is the approval. There can approve this document. So what would happen once we finalize the land acknowledgement piece with the First Nation, then it would come back to council for approval. At that point in time, you've got an approved waterfront master plan. How it gets used and implemented is really up to council in the future. Typically what would happen is there'd be through budget processes each year, staff would identify certain projects that are outlined in the waterfront master plan, and they'd get brought forward for council sort of on a yearly basis. We've got sort of higher order projects identified and lower priority projects identified. And through that various implementation of this waterfront master plan, certain projects would get completed over time effectively. So, and I guess additionally, the additional point to make is that in the consideration of new Planning Act applications in the waterfront area, certainly the plan would be considered, as well as the policies that get implemented in the official plan through this process. So that's sort of the implementation aspect of it, but it will get finalized once the First Nation details are confirmed.
Okay, thanks. Councilor Keith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was under the impression, though, as a result of receiving this draft waterfront master plan, that the Waterfront Advisory Committee had wanted to have one more little look-see at it to make any comments so that they could be provided also.
I'll let Jeremy take that. He's been sort of stick handling that group.
Thank you, Jamie. Through you, Councillor Keith, or to you, Councillor Keith, through your worship. Certainly not a finalized document. As Jamie noted, there has been a whole lot of wholesale changes since the last draft. Until it's approved by council, I mean, there's always opportunity for further comment that will be considered. So certainly encourage the committee to have a review of it. And I think there was some chat at the committee as well. If they have any ideas in terms of prioritizing some of the action items, I think that would be appreciated as well, and they'll help us move forward with the implementation of those recommendations.
Thank you. That was my understanding, that it would come back to that committee. We would make some prioritization of what issues that we thought were important, but it would again go back to council for, of course, their support, etc.
Anything else? Councilor Ashford?
Is there opportunity to comment? Are we talking about receiving this for information purposes, or are we just questioning the presentation?
We're receiving it for information purposes. Or you got a question about it?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So in this situation, I think as I've kind of watched and gone through, we've had kind of an unprecedented amount of involvement from the community. And I just remember sitting at the nights at the Stocking Center. It really got people out, and like people in, like, there were teens, people in their twenties. You know, like if you look at our demographic, it was almost like a pretty proportional amount of people from our demographic and our community all the way through. And people had a lot to say. And when I read through the document and I look at the different ideas and thoughts, I really see, okay, well, we took a lot of information from the community and the things that people said in that. But I think we have to also be cognizant that the community now is going to look at this and say, where do I see myself in it? Where were the things that I did? I took time, I came to these things, I commented, I gave ideas. Where do I fit into this? And in the words, I can see it quite well. So I'm like really happy and I'm looking, going like, wow, look at all this stuff. But the conceptual drawings, which is what I think many of the community members are gonna, like, you know, they want to see that big thing on the wall that they looked at. A lot of them, they really seem unchanged. And in that sense, I feel like the one, just as a small example, the one that kind of caught my eye was as soon as I was looking through, maybe I was in a bit of a grumpy mood, I don't know, but I look and I see the picture of the salt dock has not changed at all. And it was an enormously overwhelming comment that we need more parking there. So when we had the event for hospice this summer at the Salt Dock, it was great. We kind of sectioned off, drew lines, figured out where boats could go. It was the Derby at the same time as, you know, when we have all this work that was done, all this information, and we really could redraw that conceptual drawing to represent what the community asked for and the work that all the staff and everybody's put into it. But it really just looked like it was the exact same drawing dropped off. Now that drawing in one sense doesn't matter, right? Because it's just a drawing. It's not really what the whole plan is. But at the same time, just like this is just, we're symbolically kind of like saying, oh, we got this for information purposes. It's not really anything definitive. But at the same time, I kind of want to say like those, I want a way that people can look at this and be like, I went out to those days, I did those things, you know, the council, the town, the staff, these people listened to me. And look at that extra parking spot, you know, like look at that thing. And I think that we only can accomplish that by kind of maybe revisiting the conceptual drawings in a bit more fulsome way. So that's my 2 cents on it. And again, maybe I was just grumpy, like so much good. Like I've even read it over again, like the words, but and the ideas and how we're addressing parking in it, like a lot of really creative ways that's coming out. But if you're just going to be the flipping through looking at the pictures, which I think if you're not getting paid to sit here, you probably that's where you're at, then you might not even see any change. Thank you.
So I guess my question for Mr. Robinson would be, these are concepts. They're not something that's written in stone, and that when actually we decide to do something, there could be tweaks or changes made to those conceptual drawings that might change that particular flavor at that particular time. Is that a fair enough question?
Yes, your worship, that's accurate. With that said, I can commit to taking another look at the drawings just in light of the comments that were received as well. I know from a budget perspective, we're in good shape right now. So there is an ability to take a look at those comments and see if there's an opportunity to incorporate some potential slight modifications to some of those drawings to address comments. So I'm happy to take a look at those. I think we have the opportunity here to do that. But yes, these are conceptual drawings. And then if the municipality ever wanted to proceed with an update to the salt dock property, then there would be a terms of reference prepared for that, multiple drawings, I'm sure, completed, and the town would select at that point in time. So there'd be a more wholesome, detailed study of that specific location per se. So,
Councillor Ashford?
I'm sure I'm the only one that said I want a Ferris wheel, so don't feel like you got to put that in, right? But at the same time, if there's anything that can be done so people can see themselves in those drawings, then I think that can only help.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried, unopposed. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Robinson. You have a good
thank you,
evening.
worship. Thanks, council. Have a good night.
Next, moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Ashford, that council approves the 2025 OREG 588/17 compliant asset management plan for the town of Parry Sound prepared by Public Sector Digest Incorporated, and that council approves continuation of the 1.8% tax increase to support infrastructure replacement per scenario 3 within the asset management plan, and that the update of the water and sewer rate study be included in the 2026 budget for review. Are we going straight to?
Can say a few
You're
things.
gonna say a few things? Okay, Ms. Phillips, you go for it, and then I guess Moya.
Thank you. So this third iteration of the asset management plan will meet all the regulatory requirements. The final requirements were to provide proposed levels of service. So going forward from this point, the council would be required, we would report back to council each year just on the progress of the plan, and then it would be required to update it every 5 years. Some improvements to the plan this go around. Our community survey was developed and the town received 469 completed surveys, and an open house took place. The responses are summarized on page 34 of the plan. And the Parry Sound Public Library was incorporated into the plan to assist them with compliance to the regulation. And really, the asset management plan is a live document requiring continual updates and enhancements. So a lot of work goes into the development of it. So the taxation increase recommendation of 1.8% continuing will achieve 75% of target funding in 20 years. So there's currently an annual funding gap of about 11.1 million, but this excludes one-time grant funding as not a reliable resource annually. And as you can imagine, the town relies heavily on grants to support infrastructure investment at this time. I'll turn it over to Moya Taylor, Asset Management Advisor at PSD Citywide. And she's here tonight, and we've been working closely on the development of the plan and meeting the regulatory requirements. I'll pass it over. Thanks.
Welcome, Moya.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. I think I need to request to share it. Okay, there we go. All right, are you guys seeing my screen there okay?
We do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So thank you so much for having me here this evening. As Stephanie mentioned, I'm an asset management advisor here with PSD Citywide. I've been working with the town staff to develop this 2025 asset management plan. So I do want to say a big thank you to the town staff for all of their hard work in developing this plan. I'm going to provide an overview on the key highlights of the 2025 asset management plan today. So I'll be going through the regulatory context briefly, going through the highlights of the asset management plan and the recommended next steps, and I'll leave some time at the end for questions as well. So to start off, I'll touch on the background and regulatory context. So in 2015, the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act was introduced, which included the Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure, or OREG 58817. So this did require, as Stephanie mentioned, a asset management policy and 3 different iterations of the asset management plan between 2022 and 2025. For this project, we were developing an asset management plan that met the 2025 OREG requirements. So you can see here a quick overview of the OREG requirements for each of the defined AMPs. The one that we've developed, as I mentioned, meets the 2025 requirements. The 2025 requirements are really focusing on proposed levels of service. So looking at what you wanted to do in terms of your goals, the impacts of growth on proposed levels of service, and also the financial strategy to meet those proposed levels of service. So to jump into the details of the 2025 plan, for the 2025 AMP, we analyzed both core and non-core assets. So core assets being your roads and bridges, structural culverts, storm, sanitary, and water services. And then, of course, your non-core would be all other capital assets like vehicles, buildings, equipment, and land improvements. So the analysis of these asset categories was limited to existing assets only, while addressing anticipated growth and its impact on asset management in the AMP. And it supports efficient use of funds on infrastructure programs and provides an important tool for communicating. So in regards to details of the asset management plan, for the 2025 current replacement cost, we had a total of $519 million. So this is in 2024 dollars, and there's no inflation in these projections. But you can see here each asset category is broken out by replacement cost, with the road network making up a substantial amount. And here we have the overall asset condition of the asset portfolio. So you can see this is the overall portfolio condition broken out. Overall, 53% of the municipality's infrastructure is in fair or better condition, and the average overall condition rating is fair or 48%. And that condition data relies on both age-based and field condition data. So the field condition data will be when we get information from the municipality or there's information updated in citywide, such as your OSIM reports or road need studies or street scan studies. Whereas the age-based data relies on the estimated useful life that's defined. So basically it takes, if it says there's supposed to be an estimated useful life of 10 years, we're at the 9-year point, it says it's in very poor condition. The chart here shows the amount of assets or the percentage of assets that had condition assessments applied and the source of those assessments. Overall, we had 49% of assets with condition information. And then, of course, for the remaining, we were reliant on age-based condition. As I mentioned, you might have an EUL stating 10 years for a vehicle, for example, but we know that they last a lot longer. So a lot of times the age-based condition does typically overstate the needs and overall deficits, whereas the assessed condition data can build confidence in your decision-making. So for the 2025 AMP, like I mentioned, proposed levels of service were the main component. But in order to get to those proposed levels of service, we did have to evaluate the current levels of service. So adequate revenue is crucial for building your sustainable asset management program. And in order to deliver affordable levels of service, we need to find a balance between the cost, performance, and the risk. So understanding that, we were able to define what the current state of each asset category was. So we kind of had that highlighted here with the current replacement cost and the current asset condition. Understanding the current performance of these assets allowed us to determine what is an acceptable level of service and what it would look like financially in order to work towards achieving those targets. So in order to do that, we developed 3 different scenarios for proposed levels of service. So the 3 scenarios that were analyzed, the first one modeled no funding increases. So assuming no increase to taxes or rates for the purpose of increasing capital funding. So maintaining everything status quo, keeping all the rates and the tax levies exactly the same. Scenario 2 modeled achieving 100% of the target funding level. So the target funding level would be the average annual capital requirement that was calculated from citywide. So scenario 2 looked at achieving 100% of that target in 20 years for tax-funded assets and 5 years for rate-funded assets. So what that would look like would be a 2.7% tax increase for 20 years and a 1.6% water rate increase and 2.2% sanitary rate increase for 5 years. And then finally, scenario 3 modeled achieving the 75% of the targeted funding, and that would be by maintaining the existing tax increase. So it would assume that the tax increase of 1.8 would continue annually for 20 years. And this one would assume that the annual water and sanitary rates would see no increase because based on citywide calculations, they're currently funded at 75% of their target funding level. So analyzing all 3 scenarios, the town has selected scenario 3 for their tax funded assets. So that will be maintaining the existing 1.8% increase to achieve 75% of the targeted funding for the tax funded assets. And then for the rate funded assets, water and sanitary, they selected scenario 2, which was achieving 100% of the targeted funding in 5 years. And that's what's reflected in the financial strategy. Also just noting that the town will be performing an external rate study to reanalyze the rate increases required for water and sanitary. So they may be reevaluated based on the results of that study. So by looking at scenario 2 and 3, which aim to achieve specific target funding levels for each asset category, the town is setting a prudent financial goal that supports responsible stewardship of its assets. It's also reinforcing the commitment to delivering sustainable, resilient municipal services while maintaining fiscal responsibility to residents. So as you can see here, the town is currently committing approximately 6.6 million towards capital projects per year from sustainable revenue sources. So when we talk about sustainable revenue sources, we're looking at CCBF, OSIF, tax allocations, and reserves, basically anything that would continue annually and is a guarantee you'll be getting it year after year. The average annual requirements for both the tax and rate funded assets to provide that proposed level of service totals approximately 14.2 million. So this is resulting in an annual deficit of roughly 7.6 million based on the proposed level of service. So put differently, these assets are currently funded at 47% of their long-term capital requirement. So based on this infrastructure deficit and the selected proposed levels of service, it is recommended that the tax-funded assets continue to see an increase of 1.8% annually for 20 years, that water rates see an increase of 1.6% annually for 5 years, and sanitary rates see an increase of 2.2% annually for 5 years. And this will be solely for the purpose of phasing in that proposed funding to the asset categories that are covered in the AMP and reducing that infrastructure deficit. It's important to note that these numbers do not factor in one-time grants or non-sustainable sources of revenue, but we acknowledge that they will continue to be an essential source of revenue for investment in the future. Asset reserves are also available for use by applicable asset categories during this phase-in period to the proposed funding. So using that along with the past use of debt allows the scenarios to assume that if it was required, available reserves and debt capacity can be used for any high priority or emergency infrastructure investments. Adjustments to taxes should also be supplemented with project prioritization and, of course, evaluation of the desired level of service. So finally, looking at recommendations and next steps, it is recommended to continue to review and refine the asset inventory. It's also recommended that a portfolio-wide data governance strategy be implemented. So that would increase accuracy and confidence in the data in the citywide system. It's also recommended to develop an established cycle for updating the replacement cost information and condition information in citywide so that it is updated and ready to go for your annual updates and your next iteration of the AMP. In-field condition assessments are also recommended to ensure accuracy in the data presented in the AMP. And finally, it's recommended to review all of the estimated useful lives that are defined in the TCA policy as part of a regular review. In regards to next steps, OREG 58817 does require that council conduct an annual review of its asset management progress on or before July 1st. So what that looks like is addressing the progress in implementing the AMP, identifying any factors that are preventing you from implementing the AMP, and then identifying a way to address those factors. The full AMP must also be updated at least once every 5 years. And we must also consider continuous improvement and regular review. The AMP is a living document, so it should be updated regularly. Accordingly, we do recommend that the operating budget includes funding for the assessment of the town's assets so that it can be used to update future iterations of the plan. So that's everything for me. I'll now welcome any questions.
So Moya, I just a comment first, and that is that what sometimes the public doesn't understand is that we have to do these asset management plans. They're legislated that we have to do. They are important. They are good for a municipality to do, and it shows where you are and where your life cycle is on a number of things. But these also mean that it takes more staff time to be able to do these projects to make sure that's done so we're in compliance. And if we're not in compliance, then we don't get the funding that is maybe necessarily needed. So that's something that the public hopefully understands, is that if you don't do this work, you don't possibly get the funding. And
Yes.
so it's very important to keep it up, but it also means more staff time to be able to do these things. The second thing I wanted to ask is within the plan, obviously there's all kinds of checks and balances and that sort of thing. So the updates every year that have to happen, let's say we get a grant for a project and that sort of thing, that money, that the grant money that we receive, is that then recalculated within the system to say that, we had a shortfall, let's say of $11 million per year, whatever, to upgrade what needs to be upgraded. But if we get $7 million, does that then reflect in that year or whatever to say that we have achieved some grants from the province or the feds to be able to upgrade what we have? Yeah, and where that sits with the future outlook of the asset management plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now with the annual update, there is no set requirements on how you need to approach that. So, doing a touch point to say where you are in terms of achieving that proposed level of service. And for example, in that update, you can include the information that you received those grants as well. The citywide system doesn't calculate, where you sit in terms of your reinvestment rate. That's something we do, as a consultant on the side. But it is something that you can, if you're looking at your calculations yourself, you can definitely include that and include that in your progress report that this money is coming from grants, so it wasn't needed from the taxation base.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Ashford?
I think this was one of the most exciting things I learned that the previous council handed to us, that we have this great system where we're providing a really predictable tax and rate increase for our ratepayers. That we're not only gonna have all of our stuff's in order, but this is very predictable and everybody can kind of know. So I think it's just wonderful what's happening. What I hadn't considered until we started talking today is that the goalpost could possibly change. And I was just kind of wondering, as this new wastewater study is done, I guess like if the wastewater plant collapsed in on itself and we didn't realize that was going to happen, that would affect the goalpost, right? But as far as this new wastewater study, is this something like how does this work and how does it fit into what our final number is? Like, are we looking at longer than 5 years as a possibility, or how does that kind of, yeah, thank you.
Ms. Phillips?
I can help with that. So the rate study will consider, this just incorporates capital only on its own, and the targets are very close to what we had in our rate study. But when we look at the rate study, it will also consider operating impacts and capital. So it's a more wholesome outlook. So when we do that, it would be a better judge of what we should do going forward, a more accurate reflection of that, because it incorporates everything. But we typically do a water financial plan every 5 years, so we have to continually update that and check in with how we're doing compared to the forecast and the plan and the rates. Yeah. Brooke?
Councillor McCann?
So for Ms. Phillips, going back a little bit, you caught my attention when you mentioned the Parry Sound Public Library. I didn't get what the context of that line was.
So in working with the library, we've incorporated in the replacement costs of their assets as well to make sure that they will be compliant with the regulations so that their grant funding wouldn't be impacted negatively or anything like that. So in this version of the plan, it includes replacement costs for the library's assets, such as the building and number of inventory items.
So is that operating or capital then?
It would be capital replacement items only.
So the building's owned by the library. Does that change the rules in any way?
It's completely up to the individual case whether the library would be included in the towns or on their own. But in this case, we could incorporate that without additional costs. So it would just be more efficient to include it in our plan so that they wouldn't have to complete a separate asset management plan.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions, comments? No? Okay. All in favor then? And that's carried, none opposed. Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Thank you very much.
You have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. And Item 951, moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Borneman. Whereas prescription drug diversion, particularly involving regulated opioids and other controlled medications, presents a serious and growing risk to public health, community safety, and vulnerable populations across Ontario, including northern and rural communities. And whereas evidence from law enforcement, health professionals, and community drug strategy partners demonstrates that diverted prescription medications are contributing to substance misuse, criminal activity, and increased strain on health, social, and enforcement systems throughout Northern Ontario. Whereas the Partnership and Collaboration Project, The Birth of Change, written by the North Bay Police Services and Community Drug Strategy of North Bay and area, brings together law enforcement, addiction medicine specialists, pharmacists, public health partners, and community organizations to address prescription diversion through a collaborative, evidence-based, and multi-sector approach. Whereas the project identifies practical regulatory, prescribing, dispensing, and prevention measures intended to reduce diversion while maintaining appropriate access to medically necessary pain management and addiction treatment services. And whereas municipalities across Northern Ontario are experiencing the downstream impacts of prescription diversion, including pressures on emergency services, policing, housing stability, and community well-being, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound formally supports the Partnership and Collaboration Project, The Birth of Change, and its objectives to reduce prescription drug diversion throughout coordinated evidence-based action. And be it further resolved that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound calls on the Province of Ontario, including the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Health and Addictions, to review and give serious consideration to the project's recommendations, including regulatory, prescribing, dispensing, and prevention strategies aimed at mitigating prescription diversion while protecting patient care. And further, it be resolved that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound encourage continued provincial engagement with municipalities, law enforcement, health professionals, pharmacists, and community partners to ensure the solutions are practical, regulatory, appropriate, and responsive to the realities faced by Northern Ontario communities. And further be resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Minister of Health, the Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Sergeant Brad Rayum, Northern Ontario members of Provincial Parliament, NOMA, AMO, and Roma, and we should have included Phenom in that as well. Any questions? Councillor McCann?
So I get the gist of this and I certainly support it. What is the definition of prescription diversion in simple terms? I'm not sure I know exactly what that means.
Well, I'm not a medical person, so I would I don't know. There's someone here who has an answer for that? Mr. Google's looking it up.
I was just going to say, well, I'll Google it.
I think it more or less has to do is that you're not maybe prescribing as many types of these sort of drugs that people get hooked on, so that there's less impact on the patient that way, so they're not becoming addicted to them, and probably it's regulated in a better way so that it's tracked, because there's a lot of times right now it's not, and they end up out in the community. So, Councillor Borneman.
So Google is very fast. It says that it's the unlawful channeling of regulated pharmaceuticals
There you
from
go.
legal services
Yeah.
to the illicit marketplace.
Right.
So exactly as you're talking about,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I read the other day, I think it actually was just yesterday, in the headlines about
Huh?
gun wars and drug wars moving their way up to Northern Ontario, and it's a problem on Manitoulin Island and such. So anything that we can do to mitigate the growth in that area is it's very sad and it's very scary. And I think when we're sitting on the, maybe Councillor McDonald will remember this, on the downtown quality experience, the OPP members had talked about the fact that, we're not aware of some of the dangerous criminals that are traveling on Highway 469. So it's evident that that crime is moving north, and it sure would be nice to curtail it.
Or it could be moving south as well.
Are you talking about Trump? Are you talking about Trump and his border?
No, I'm just saying, it's a two-way highway. And every month, we get an update. Well, we get an update at our public health meetings, but we also get an update every month from public health to our DSAP. And the number of overdoses that are in this sort of catchment area between North Bay, Nipissing, Parry Sound, that sort of thing. And it is the number of overdoses and deaths by a particular community. And it's quite shocking.
Yeah,
So,
and you're right, and it is shocking and it's scary. And I think the suggestive part of this story was the fact that, for the longest time, and maybe it was an unfounded or false sense of security, but in these rural areas, small towns and villages, these things don't happen. But guess what? They do.
They do. Yeah. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Borneman, seconded by Councillor McCann. Whereas Life Labs has announced its intention to close its Greater Sudbury laboratory and the transfer of medical specimen processing from Northern Ontario laboratories in Southern Ontario. And whereas Greater Sudbury Laboratory provides essential diagnostic services to communities across Northern Ontario, including urban, rural, and remote municipalities, and plays a critical role in ensuring timely and reliable medical testing for Northern residents. And whereas patients with chronic illness, newborns, long-term care residents, and individuals on time-sensitive medications depend on the predictable laboratory turnaround times to support clinical decision-making. And whereas transporting medical specimens along distances to Southern Ontario increase the risk of delays, specimen degradation, and retesting, particularly during frequent winter highway closures, potentially jeopardizing patient outcomes. And whereas Northern Ontario is already experiencing shortages of healthcare professionals, and the closure of this laboratory further undermines regional workforce stability, training capacity, and recruitment and retention efforts. Therefore, be resolved, the Council of Town of Parry Sound call on the Province of Ontario and the Ministry of Health to take immediate action to ensure that essential medical laboratory services remain accessible within Northern Ontario, including maintaining local laboratory processing capacity in Greater Sudbury. And be further resolved that the province be urged to ensure reliable, timely, and medically appropriate laboratory turnaround times for Northern Ontario patients, recognizing the unique geographic and climate challenges of the region. And it further resolved that the province be requested to protect and support the Northern Ontario healthcare workforce, including medical laboratory technologists, by preventing further service centralization that disproportionately impacts northern communities. And be further resolved, the copies of this resolution be forwarded to the Minister of Health, local members of provincial parliament, Phenom, Amo, and Roma. Yes, Councillor McCann.
So, it seems like we're growing in, Northern Ontario is becoming lesser Ontario. Another example of what's going south, something like this. And I know there's been a big pushback against the closing of Life Labs. Just like the mail, it's all sorted in Toronto. I sometimes wonder if they figure that they're cutting down on costs. We're always looking to save money, but what's wrong with keeping people in a job, contributing to the community and providing such a service that's so important and so integral, especially if you're talking about traffic delays. And we all know what it's like traveling on 469 in the winter. So I really, really support this, and I hope we haven't heard the end of this in which this would be all closed down in the north.
Councillor Keith.
Only a quick comment. Sometimes when I read things like a resolution like this that needs to be put on an agenda, I have to say to myself, where are people's thought process anymore? All you have to do is know anybody who has any sort of health issues, know all these issues of transportation, know already that in the north, there are a number of inadequacies. So one has to wonder, where do people come up with making these decisions without really thinking fully of the consequences of all? That's it.
Any further? All in favor? Oh, Counselor. Oh, okay, okay, we're all in favor then. Okay, good. Really? Oh, you Googled it. So apparently it was acquired by a US-based company. So I guess the US-based company doesn't feel that Northern Ontario is important. Maybe, yeah. Oh, boy. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Borneman. Whereas improved financial stability allows municipal residents to participate, contribute, and invest in their local economies and communities. And whereas poverty puts additional pressure on municipalities who are responsible for delivering necessary public and social services to support residents who are struggling with the consequences of an inadequate income. And whereas poverty, homelessness, and food insecurity have detrimental impacts on physical and mental health, and whereas income is an important social determinant of health that generally impacts a household's ability to pay for basic costs of living, including housing and food, and whereas the 2025 North Bay Parry Sound food affordability results show that households reliant on social assistance do not have enough money for the cost of living, and therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound supports efforts to raise awareness about and work to reduce poverty, homelessness, and food insecurity. And furthermore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound endorses the recommendations of the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit and call on the Province of Ontario to increase Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Program rates to reflect the cost of living and index Ontario Works rates to inflation going forward. And furthermore, be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Parry Sound provide correspondence of these resolutions to the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit, neighboring municipalities, Victor Fideli, MP, P. Nipissing, Graydon Smith, MPP, Parry Sound Muskoka, John Van Thoff, MPP, Timiskaming Cochrane, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier, the Honorable Michael Parza, Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health, Pauline Rochefort, MP, Nipissing Timiskaming, Scott Aitchison, MP, Parry Sound Muskoka, District of Parry Sound Social Services Administration Board, District of Nipissing Social Services Administration Board, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Federation of Northern Municipalities, and the Council of the Ontario Medical Officers of Health. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Bolesky and seconded by Councillor Ashford that bylaw number 2026-7576 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a transfer payment agreement with His Majesty the King in the right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Solicitor General for diesel exhaust removal from the apparatus bay in the fire hall be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councillor Bolesky and seconded by Councillor Ashford that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? But I think we had this discussion the other week about this, the funding we got for that. So all in favor? That's carried. Next, moved by Counselor Ashford, second by Counselor Belaski, that bylaw number 2026-7577 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council. There's no extra direction or anything I missed, right?
I just want to double check it. It was supposed to be above potholes, but maybe the front sheet isn't updated.
Oh. Yeah, it's. Should have been about potholes. I was gonna say, I think so, yeah. Yeah. So, I was gonna say that. I was just gonna, what does the
Can I
rest of the
just write it?
bylaw say? What does the rest of
It's
the bylaw?
supposed to be transfer payment agreement with the Minister of the Ontario Minister of Transportation regarding funding under the pothole prevention and repair program.
So it will read the same, but we'll replace the minister with the Minister of
Ontario Minister of
Transportation?
Transportation regarding funding under the pothole prevention and repair program. This one's okay, but
Yeah. We'll do this again. That's okay. We double did the other one. A little deja vu. Anyway, moved by Counselor Belaski and second by Counselor Ashford, that bylaw number 2026-7576 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a transfer payment with His Majesty the King in the right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Transportation under the Pothole Prevention Program. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third reading, and that's carried. And moved by Counselor Belaski and second by Counselor Ashford, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. We're all in favor? Okay, we're carried. You get your potholes. Pothole plugs. That's carried. Okay, I'll give you all that back and then we need to sign it. We'll figure it out at the end. Yeah. Okay, so moved by Counselor Ashford, second by Counselor Belaski, that bylaw number 2026-7577 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be considered as read a first time. All in favor? And that's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Counselor Ashford and seconded by Counselor Belaski, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, prior to adjourning, I'll offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, March the 3rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held at the town of Parry Sound Council Chambers at 52 Seguin Street, entrance via Gibson Street. It will be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. Council meeting schedule, notices of special council meetings, complete agendas and minutes and instructions on accessing live streamed and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca and use the search bar. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.